All right, well, thanks for coming, folks. And yeah, I'm happy to introduce Snowline Gold Corp. We are a CSE listed company under the symbol SGD and on the OTCQB under the symbol SNWGF. We are a new Yukon focused and Yukon and Canada based gold explorer attacking big greenfield projects. Throughout this presentation, I'll be making a lot of forward-looking statements. We're a forward-looking company, and of course, as investors, that pays to be forward-looking. And is it possible to turn up the mic a little bit? I may not be totally heard. Thank you. So Snowline, I mentioned we're a new company, but we are not a new endeavor. We're actually launched out of more than 30 years of private prospecting in the Yukon Territory, started by my father, Ron Berdahl. And he's been dragging my brother and myself out since we were little kids into the Yukon bush. So we've been at this a long time. And our strategy as prospectors has always been to stay off the beaten path, stay off of where other people are going, and try to find new things. And so, of course, we find a lot of moose pasture that way, but we also find a lot of, or we have found some very interesting new things. From our assets, we've spun out 7, and now we've acquired an 8th project, a large 8th project, really 10 projects, in the Yukon Territory. And we've vectored in on this area near the Northwest Territories border in the eastern Yukon, at the eastern end of the Tombstone Gold Belt, where the newly discovered Rackla Gold Belt kind of curves to the south. And it's an area that's seen very little exploration historically, but we've been exploring there for about 10 years, and we have amassed a huge data set that was really the foundation for launching Snowline. And I want to just, as prospectors, we have to think about, we're out there to find mines. And so what does a mine look like before it is a mine? This is the discovery outcrop at our Valley target, which I'll be talking about a lot today. Now, I'm sure Doug Casey has spoken at this conference, and I know that many of his followers or disciples and students are here. But I think he lays out a pretty good list of 9 things to look for in a company, and really 9 things that can really distinguish just a random company from something that has a shot at being a mine. And so I'll just quickly run us through these and see how Snowline stacks up. First is the people. I mean, it's important to have a good team. You can have a great asset, and without the right people pushing it forward, it may not go anywhere. That's, I think, why you see a lot of projects that iterate multiple times before they really find traction. But I'm very happy that we've built a very strong team in Snowline. Our success has kind of snowballed on itself and allowed us to attract good talent. And we have a young but experienced and very driven team helping us bring these projects forward. We also have a very strong board, which is the bottom row there: Craig Hart, Sarah Weber, and Gunther Rolig. Craig is a world expert in reduced intrusion-related gold systems, which is what we have found at the Valley Discovery. You can still see that picture in the background there. And Sarah and Gunther also bring a diverse set of experience to the table. Sarah is also a geologist with vast experience in community and First Nations relations. Gunther brings a lot of experience from the corporate side and from the public company side. The team, I won't go through one by one, but I will point out our lead geologist, Sergio Caminal, who we were able to effectively poach from Barrick, and where he was country manager for Chile and Argentina. So we're really happy to have him on board and really have that experience in terms of building a district scale portfolio. We have a huge pipeline of assets that we're advancing, and so to be able to categorize those and sort them and work through them, he brings a lot to the table, as does every person on this slide. The second P is projects, and as I mentioned, we're focused in the eastern Yukon. We have a huge land position, over 250,000 hectares, which is roughly 0.5% of the land area of the Yukon Territory, and a lot of it is largely unexplored. This area that we found is very fertile, and as I mentioned, we've been working in that area for 10 years, so we have a huge leg up on anyone else there. We have a huge data set that we've used to advance our understanding and to advance these targets. And then I'll vector in. We drilled 2 targets last year, and so it was a great proof of concept for this district scale idea to go out there and drill 2 targets for the first time ever, and to make 2 pretty significant gold discoveries. And I'll just focus our attention in on Valley, which is right now our most advanced target. Within the project, I've made my own list of things that I think are very important in terms of what does it look like, not just to find a nice discovery, but to find a mine. And you need scale, you need grade, you need continuity of mineralization, you need a good geometry, and a mine type that's going to be amenable to that, and you need decent metallurgy. At Valley, we definitely have scale. On the left are our visual results. Those colors show vein densities, with the red colors showing more veins per meter. And this is a bulk tonnage target. So this big red outline is an intrusion, and within that intrusion are sheeted veins. And so the denser the veins, the higher the grade. The veins are what's carrying the gold. They're very small, but there are thousands of them. And so typically in these systems, called reduced intrusion-related gold systems, you might get a grade of 1 gram per ton if you're lucky. You might get 0.6 of a gram, and yet they still work. Here we're getting grades of multiple grams per ton over large areas. We only have a few assays back so far, but the scale is here. You can see hundreds of meters long, hundreds of meters wide, and hundreds of meters deep. There's basically a very large system taking shape, and we're just at the very start of this discovery. Grades, as I mentioned, multiple grams per ton. These two sections are roughly 150 meters apart. You can see, 318 meters of 2.5 grams. We just had this hole out yesterday or 2 days ago in the morning, including the top 108 meters of that hole at 4 grams per ton, 4.1. And again, hundreds of meters away, a nice 283 meter intersection of 2.3 grams with 146 at 3.2. And that is, that's actually only the top 2/3 of that hole. We're still waiting for the assays on the bottom part of it. The continuity, you can see in these cross sections, this previous one and the current one, that these are very continuous systems. Within that top 108 meters, there are only a handful of assays that are below a gram per ton, and I think the lowest is 0.59 grams per ton. So that's actually, you look at other mines of this type, they're actually operating with current head grades of 0.6 and 0.3 in the case of Fort Knox, which is a 10 million ounce system in Alaska that's been operating for decades, this same deposit type. So we have, we're seeing grades that are multiples of the grades that are typical in this type of system. And these grades are actually really somewhat unprecedented in this kind of system. So we're obviously ecstatic to see that. Geometry. We are located in a valley, but it's a glacial valley, which means it has a big flat bottom, which makes for a very attractive strip ratio. Again, having multiple gram per ton from surface really helps with the strip ratio, capex, shorter payback, increased IRR. Like just the geometry works for building a profitable mine here, for covering your upfront capex costs, and basically being, a lot of projects talk about having a high-grade starter pit. We really have what may be a high-grade starter mine here. And then on top of that, the multiple gram per ton adds a different element where a lot of it would be accessible by a hypothetical open pit. And I'll just caution that that pit design is certainly not done by an engineer. That was done by me frantically in the hotel room this morning. So we'll do some more detailed studies, but just as a general indicator of the geology. But in terms of the actual mining method, having multiple grams per ton, being above that sort of 2 gram per ton threshold, puts us in a place where we might also be amenable to block cave and other bulk tonnage underground techniques, or bulk underground techniques. And so that really opens the resource to depth, the resource potential to depth, where these systems at Fort Knox in Alaska, at Eagle here in the Yukon, they're often vertically continuous for as much as a kilometer or more. And so if you're looking at a grade of 0.3 or 0.6, that's kind of an academic problem. But if you're looking at grades of 2+ grams per ton, suddenly that actually becomes a very interesting facet of the ore body or the mineralization. Metallurgy, we're actively working to do met work in the near future. We're sending off samples from the drilling that we've done this summer, so we'll figure that out soon. But we know from looking over the fence at systems like Fort Knox, again, a 10 million ounce deposit in Alaska, systems like Eagle in the Yukon, Victoria Gold, I don't know their resource off the top of my head, but it's on the order of 5 or 6 million ounces. And these work in part because of the metallurgy. There are not that many 0.3 gram per ton mines out there that are making a profit. And that works because the gold is, a lot of it's free gold. It's fine, but visible. And that just it makes for an attractive recovery situation where you can basically, you can leach, you can do gravity. And in this case, with these higher grades, we might be able to come up with flotation to efficiently get the gold out of the ore. And so we'll have that box ticked soon, but we're very confident that that will go reasonably well. And there's also very low sulfide content in these rocks, which means very low potential for acid mine drainage. and it also, low in deleterious elements. I've heard anecdotes of tailings ponds and other systems of this type where they're live grayling from mortality tests that have escaped the mortality test, and they've grown and bred and are living their lives out in these tailings ponds. So, this is potentially some very clean ore. The third P is paper, and Snowline Gold has a relatively tight share structure still, with 130 million shares outstanding, 150 fully diluted, and those are held largely by some initial backers of the company and strong continued backers of the company, including Keith Newmeyer. Crescat Capital has a very large position at almost 20% of the company. Eric Sprott was active in our initial rounds. And my family, myself and my father, also hold large positions, as well as a few other strong hands behind the company. So people, project, and paper are in place. The next three, promotion, financing, and I think Doug took some liberties there, but politics. Promotion. So, this is, to a lot of geologists, this is a bad word, and I would almost count myself in that camp as well, but I do recognize the importance of first putting dollars into the ground, but also telling the story. And so, we actively are out there trying to build the story. I think there's the potential for over promotion. There's a lot of maybe questionable assets in the industry that get heavily promoted, but we're looking for earned coverage. We do have an in-house team, Stephanie Hansen, who is here with me, and we're going to conferences. We're actively engaging on social media. We're exploring various means to get the word out there. So we are very actively trying to tell the story and get it out to as wide an audience as possible. At the same time, our earned media and earned coverage has really started to pay off. We've recently been picked up by at least three analysts, Michael Gray from Agentis, Brock Coulterjohn from Cormark, and Brandon Gaspar from Sprott. So we're really happy to be getting onto the radar, and I think that is just starting. Our financing, we're well financed. At the start of the month, we had 27 million. I think by the end of the year, we'll be looking at about $25 million in the bank. We also have about, give or take, $20 million of warrants that are currently in the money. And again, strong backers who have an appetite for more Snowline as we reach out again, and a lot of interest coming in from a lot of new sources as we put these new results onto the table. Politics. The Yukon is a jurisdiction with a long history of mining. Of course, Canada, politically stable country. The Yukon was recently ranked number 9 by the Fraser Institute in terms of mining jurisdictions to work in globally. We're in the traditional territory of the First Nation of Nacho-Naic Dun. They have 2 active mines in their traditional territory, and others are progressing through permitting. So Keno Hill, a historic silver camp here, has been operating for the better part of a century. Mayo was built on mining, so it's a traditional territory with a long history of mining and an active presence of mining today. So promotion, financing, politics, I think we check those boxes as well. Finally, the push, the pitfalls, and the price. By push, we're looking at what's the trajectory, what are the upcoming catalysts, why invest in Snowline now? And this curve is called the Lassonde curve. Many of you are probably familiar with it, but this is just a very general description of how a company will go from discovery, or from even pre-discovery, from founding to ideation, discovery, and definition and production. And so discovery is this sharp peak that we're just embarking on. We have our first few assays back from what looks to be a very big system, and then stepping back out again to that district scale picture, we have a lot of targets that we're advancing up that discovery pipeline. So we may even be able to stack Lassonde curves as we move forward. But here, even just with Valley alone, we're at a very exciting phase in it, and discovery is commonly the steepest value add part of this as you really show what's there. That dip after the discovery spike is called the orphan period, when then you're kind of spinning your tires and just kind of slogging through the permitting and developing and those processes. But we're at a very exciting time in the company right now. And just to better illustrate that, there's the picture of the visual results that I showed you, vein densities and the stars representing visible gold where we've seen it in drill core. Again, a very large footprint for that. This is where we are with the drill results. All of those green little sticks or green dots with the sticks are drill holes that we drilled this year. We've drilled over 12,000 meters on on Valley alone, and we have basically less than 10% of our assays back. Still 91% of the assays are pending, and what we've received back so far confirms that a lot of these vein densities are carrying very nice grades, and a lot of the visible gold correlates with very nice grades, so we expect to see a lot more strong assay results as these come back, and we expect to be able to build that scale and build out that grade and continuity in the coming weeks and months. Another factor is really the scale of the property package here, and the work that we've done in showing that this is a district. Valley is one of two intrusions, well actually one of several intrusions on our Rogue project, but there's a second intrusion just over the ridge from it that we're calling Gracie. It doesn't come to daylight. We drilled 5 holes exploring for that intrusion in Gracie. We didn't hit the intrusion, but we hit what looks to be mineralized hornfells, and so there are veins cutting through it at the same orientation, same vein type that we see at Valley, and 4 of the 5 holes carried visible gold. So it's an encouraging first sign. We'll be able to use that to vector towards the intrusion, and we're obviously very curious to see what we've actually hit there in the hornfells. It's not often you hit VG in a drill hole, and I think we've become somewhat jaded with the 2 previous discoveries to hit visible gold in 80% of our holes and kind of call that a miss. Pitfalls, of course, no project is perfect, and there are certainly pitfalls here to be aware of. We are remote, and that's what gives us this opportunity to literally find what might be tier 1 assets sticking out of the ground. And so, we're cognizant of that, and we recognize that we needed to find, we had a high bar set for ourselves in terms of what we needed to find. And I think that we have found that in Valley, and we may have found that in Jupiter, and a lot of these other targets are showing that potential. So really the infrastructure, we have a winter trail that comes within 30 kilometers of the Valley discovery. We have the government's committed upgrades to the North Canal Road to help with fireweed metals and their projects at McMillan Pass. And so this is a district that's really coming online, and that infrastructure challenge may be addressable by Valley alone, which then lowers the bar for every other project, every other target that we have in our project portfolio. Another, I suppose, with any project is the permitting risk, and we've been very proactive in that stance, and we've the solar panels there are a partnership with the Notchonaiktun Development Corporation. We have several partnerships with their companies. In this case, we are leasing solar panels from them to power the majority of power from our camp, which makes for a very nice experience out there, reduces our carbon footprint. We're keeping open lines of communication and really trying to operate at a very high standard that will allow us to get through that permitting phase a lot easier. And so far, permitting has been actually very good. We've been able to do so much so fast because we've been able to secure permits in short order to launch the company in March 2021, to be drilling by June, and to be drilling out now what may be a very large discovery the following year. So things can move fast, and we've also initiated baseline environmental monitoring on the Valley target, doing water quality data and botanical surveys, hydrology data, a bunch of factors that you'd normally get into well down the road of a discovery, but we want to start that permitting timeline, like that advanced permitting timeline, early, so that when majors look at this, when developers look at this, that NPV, that discounted cash flow model, is that much sooner because they know that data is there, so they don't have to start the process from scratch. So we're really starting to do that work for them. Price, and price refers to not the stock price, we've talked about that with the push, but the price of the commodity in general. And I think that in this case, obviously, it's gold, but we're finding a system that, given the characteristics we've talked about, may be mineable at $1,200 gold. You look at Fort Knox, and that has weathered the ups and downs of the gold industry since the early 90s. So we're hoping that we found something that's somewhat commodity agnostic, and we're not crossing our fingers and pumping $3,000 gold. This can work today, this can work tomorrow if the gold price continues to fall. So that's one of the reasons we're very excited by this discovery. Really, that sums it up. Going through Doug Casey's very rigorous criteria, I think that we tick all the boxes. I hope you agree. And we are here. I don't know our booth number, but we're just right over there, and you can find us. We're happy to dig into this in more detail. So I think we have about 30 seconds for questions if anybody wanted to ask anything. Yeah. Awesome. I'll just repeat that question, which was a real softball. It wasn't a question. It just said, gentleman said that the grades are astonishing and that he thinks a major will be interested. So thank you, Keith. I agree. All right. Thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate your time.